So I roll up, TDCJ, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, 17 years old now. While I was in county, I came across one old convict, and he was kind of a crackhead, so I didn't really respect him. He just was like a homeless type guy, and he told me, because he would see me with my fall partners. You know, they're all tattooed and gold teeth and all this stuff, and he's like, you know you're not going to be able to do that in prison, right? He said, and you're going to trip out when you go to prison and everybody's separated. He's like, you're going to learn you have to stay to your own. And that was the only advice I ever got about prison. And it didn't really stick with me that much. I didn't really get it. So, because I've been in juvenile and it's not like that. Yeah. I mean, nobody was on that. So I'm like, you can't tell me anything. I know about doing time. So 17 years old, pull up to the Holiday Unit. Now, Texas prison used to have about 60 prisons. Don't quote me on these numbers. They're probably wrong, but there was like 60 prisons in the whole state. But in the early 90s, because of the crack epidemic, and this was like the super predator era.
Tough on crime, Bill Clinton. Yeah.
They had expanded the prison system tremendously to like 200 prisons. Wow.
Just state prisons.
Yes.
Not even to mention the federal prisons.
Right. Just state. They changed the name from Texas Department of Corrections to Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And they expanded it tremendously. You know, now it's like prison systems, it's like California and Texas are like way up here in terms of number of inmates.
Yeah.
And everybody else is below. Is a massive system. So it used to be when you came in, you would go to this one unit called Diagnostics. It's this old red brick prison.
What's the prison you were at? The first prison they brought you to?
Holiday Unit.
Holiday Unit is what they call it?
Ironic, yes. So you used to go to this one prison called Diagnostics, and they would do your classification and stuff there. And so that's kind of what I was expecting. I didn't realize that they had expanded the prison system so much that there was no way to filter all the incoming inmates into one prison. So they had built all of these warehouses they called transfer facilities, and they're dorms. They're 2,000 man up to 4,000 man, I think, prisons, razor wire and all that. But it's like steel, metal buildings, 100-man dorms, and everybody's showing up there, chain buses from the big cities, the small counties, everybody starts there. And so your first 2 years in Texas prison, you're in what they call transit. And so there's a bunch of these transfer facilities, they call them. I went to Holiday Unit. There's Garza West, there's tons of them. You get there, and it's so funny. The first inmate at the back gate, it was just monstrous, just laughably huge guy. He's 400 pounds or something, just scariest looking guy you ever saw. With the sweetest voice, just as gay as could possibly be. And you know they chose him to be scary, right? Like you're supposed to be like, oh no, it's going to be definitely coming from my butt. And come in there, and Texas prison is harsher than you expect from the guards.
Yeah.
The system itself is harsh.
I've heard
they
that.
do not play.
Do they beat people up pretty often?
Absolutely. You come in the back gate of a Texas prison and watch. They will stomp you out. Oh, they love it.
And they'll get away with it?
Absolutely. If the guards rat on other guards, they have problems with guards. Wow. Like the guards stick together. They're their own gang.
Right.
And it's nothing nice. They don't care about your name, where you're from, nothing. They scream at you. Right. It's like drill sergeant stuff, And if you are even a little bit out of line, it's on. They will definitely whoop your ass.
Do they take you down to like a separate room without cameras and do it there?
No.
Or will they just beat the shit out of you in front of everybody to make an example of you?
Yeah, it's like they don't do it where other inmates can get involved because you're always in some kind of holding cage or something. So they'll just take you out and take you over here and rough you up and stick you right back in there. They'll put guys back in there and they're just whimpering and shaking and stuff because they just got their ass kicked.
Wow.
They just don't play. And a lot of the guards, especially, they load them up at intake. It's these huge football player looking prison guards, and they're in your face and putting you on the wall. They're trying to get you in. Make sure you understand from the moment you get there, you're not in charge. We are.
Yeah.
And So go through this awful intake process, getting your head shaved and shower, and you get your all white uniform, and no talking, sitting on hard benches, just processing you through like cattle. And then you go to your dorm, and it's just madness because it's all these young guys. It's first off, it's everybody mixed together.
Yeah.
You might have 3 years for DWI, and this guy's got 3 life sentences for a gang-related murder next in the same dorm.
Yeah.
So everybody's thrown in together, and it's all these kids, teenagers and stuff from the big cities, from Dallas and Houston and Austin, and they're getting thrown in there together. You've also got ex-cons and gang members, prison gang members, and they're mixing it up with them.
Yeah.
And so it's just madness, you know.
Awful.
And Texas prison is predominantly black, majority black.
Right.
It's about 40 to 50% black, and it's about 25 to 30% Hispanic, and then 25 to 30% white.
So white people, the minority.
Minority.
Wow.
And not just in number, but in quality. Because with the whites, you get all the junkies and the old guys with DWIs and stuff like that who are not thugs.
Right.
And so on any pod, on any dorm, you might only have 1 or 2 white dudes that'll stand up for themselves. And you're just screwed for the most part. Now, that said, I pulled up 17, 6'2", like 150 pounds, you know, not intimidating anybody, but I didn't have any trouble. I didn't have any problems. At this time, Tongo Blast was starting. Tongo Blast is now the biggest. They call it a gang, so I'll call it that. They might not call themselves that, but there's like 30,000 Tongo Blast members now. And I was there before they got started. Blast, the term blast at that time used to just mean, it was a casual term. So somebody might be like, what's up with the coffee blast? Meaning like, can I get some coffee? What's up with the pen pal blast? Can I get a pen pal? I think it came from Austin. I'm not sure. But you had this dynamic that was changing. The Texas prison system had grown tremendously, and they were locking up young offenders much more. But young offenders were also doing worse crimes. So they're all getting put in here with these older prison gang members. But this new generation of Hispanics, they want to use the N-word and listen to rap and stuff. And the old Cholo type Mexicans they don't like that.
Right.
They're like, you need to listen to norteños and, you know, you need to talk like a Mexican and dress like a Cholo and all this like black culture y'all are adopting is not cool.
Right.
But the young Mexicans did not want to join the old traditional Mexican mafia, Texas syndicate, the existing prison gangs. They didn't want that familia style rank and all that. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. And so, man, they rock and rolled almost daily.
And the Tongo Blast is a Hispanic gang. Well, because the new generation.
Right, because Tongo meant city. And so at this time, dudes would say, you'd be like, if I was talking to a Mexican, I'd be like, you know, who you with? And he'd be like, I'm just down with my Tongo. And that would just mean they were down with their hometown. See, this was like this is early days. So you had all the Houston Mexicans wanted to stick together. All the Austin Mexicans wanted to stick together, the Dallas. And so, but the existing prison gangs didn't like these dudes ganging up and not joining them because they had their cities traditionally under their control. So like Mexican Mafia, the Emmy was San Antonio. If you're a Mexican and you're from San Antonio, you immediately fall under the Mexican Mafia, whether you like it or not. That's the way it always was. Well, now you got all these young Mexicans talking about we're San Anto. We're just down with our Tongo. We're just down with the city.
Right.
But they didn't have that rank structure, constitution, all that stuff. And like I said, the Emmy didn't like it. The Tech Syndicate didn't like it. And so they would bang heads and they would, you know, the Mexicans got their boots on. Here it goes. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Go out to the rec yard. You're going to get gassed.
Right.
It's all these like short guys, but they're just going at it.
So they were the wildest ones. You would say the Latino gangs.
That was one thing. The Latino gangs, I'm sure same way in California, were the most active as far as gang stuff.
Yeah.
But the blacks are the majority.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a black man's prison.
They run the place.
In the South.
Right.
Yeah. The guards a lot of time are black. Most of the guards are black on most of the units. And so like the blacks get to have the janitor jobs and the kitchen jobs and stuff like that.
So then how does this all end up with you joining the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas?
So once I wrapped up on Holiday unit, well, I've spent a few months there, and then they sent me to another transfer facility. They just moving people around to make room, called the Bartlett unit. And it was where I was going to be to finish out my first 2 years. And when I got there, they actually sent me there. They sent a chain bus of us over there to fill empty bunks from a riot. They had just had a black versus white riot.
Okay.
And they had cleared out all the white dudes out of 2 buildings. And so we got to fill those cells. That was fun, man. It was so tense. It was dark. It was really ugly. You know, when we got there and you find out like there's like one white dude left. Yeah. You know, he's got half his teeth knocked out. And he's like, oh, they haven't shipped me yet. You know, like it was bad. And so you just kind of, you know, do your thing. Again, nobody bothered me. Back up on Holiday unit. That's where I had my first fight. And I got myself into it. This little crazy black dude that I thought we all knew was a piece of shit. We did. He stole something from a Nigerian bunk guy who had his bunk right next to mine, an older Nigerian man. He stole some stuff from him. And so when we came back from Chow, it was kind of all came out at Chow. We came back from Chow and they were going to square off. But the little thief dude came by to our side of the bunk, to my part of the day room, which is where the square is, where you box, right? And for some dumb reason, man, I swung on him. And when I can't even explain it. I just kind of wanted to get it over with, right? So I swung on him and the Nigerian guy swung on him at the same time. And that's when I learned that you have to stick to your own people because, man, those black dudes lost their mind. And so immediately another one jumps in and starts, you know, hitting me. So I hit him. So now we got 4 guys fighting. So I'm like, fight with him for a second. We stop. But now the whole dorm is up. Right. You know, and the guards allow you to fight in Texas.
Oh, wow.
You can, if you ask, especially if you ask permission. Wow. But they also know they can't really stop it. Wow. So the guards actually came on the pod. They came in to watch. Wow. Which happens a lot. As long as they'll tell you, everybody sit down. Don't get in it. You know what I mean? But these guys, it was a younger black officer, so he let them. They were ring around me, you know, the whole
gladiator
dorm.
School.
Yeah. So
and you don't get sent to the hole for fighting afterwards. It's just like
not as long as you listen to the guards.
Wow.
If you violate and don't do, if they tell you to stop, stop. If you know what I mean. If you're fighting in church or something, you're in trouble.
So you can't get involved in anybody's business, even if you think you're doing the right thing and helping somebody out, because it's going to cause a race riot.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So they made the blacks made that the thief dude square up. He squared up with the Nigerian. They fought to a standstill, and then they made him come fight me. And so he and I fought to a bloody standstill. Yeah. And that's when I was talking about laying in county jail and smoking cigarettes and stuff. You know, I fought until I couldn't lift my arms anymore. I literally just couldn't lift my arms anymore. And he knocked me out. And I hit the ground. I popped back up. He didn't knock me out again, but the guards were like, whatever, and it put me aside. And then another dude, he was still mad about some racial stuff. So he swung on me. And so then we fought again. And so I ended up fighting 3 dudes back to back. Yeah. And man, my eyes are swelled shut. I got blood everywhere. But every one of those dudes that hit me, I touched them right back. So they had us all in the bowling alley, which is like a main strip through the prison. And they made us stand and watch the pole, watch the light pole all night. Wow. Stand out there in the cold.
You learned your lesson, though, about prison politics.
I did. Yeah. I did. And I never had a problem with black people after that. Okay. No black inmates after that.
So then the AB, you're in the new unit now.
Go to the new unit, and I got moved to another block, and there was a guy there named Bam. And Bam was not a serious criminal. He was in for some minor thing, doing a turnaround. He was about to be back out. But his half brother was an ABT general. And he was the youngest ABT general, and he was like the most hot, up and coming, had the most going on.
Okay, before we move on, can you explain for us the difference between the ABT and the AB, the Aryan Brotherhood, the brand, and how they're different in Texas,
completely,
and
different.
how the structure operates, if you would, please.
Sure. So AB, the California Aryan Brotherhood, is its own thing, and as far as I know, has no connection with anybody else using that name. The Aryan Brotherhood of Texas was formed in the early 80s when they integrated the prison system. Texas was segregated prison system until 1980. It took a federal court order to desegregate. Right. And that led to, it was under a whole different system before then. You had building tenders, which were inmates that worked for the guards that carried nightsticks and keys and shanks, and they kept the order. They did away with that system in 1980, and they integrated. So for the first time, black inmates and white inmates are on the same. Right. In those first couple of years, they had like 100 murders. It just went nuts. It went absolutely crazy. And that gave rise to the prison gangs that we have now. Right. So the original guys that wanted an Aryan Brotherhood franchise in Texas reached out to California, and they said no. And I'm guessing it's probably because they just don't do that. Right. So they went ahead. That's why it's Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. And that's very important. It has no connection with AB in California at all. In fact, it was told to me, like, if you have an ABT patch, don't go to California. Right. Like, if you end up in prison in California, you might have problems with that.
For sure.
Because you're not supposed to.
For sure.
And we did not use like the clover leaf and things like that are kind of traditional AB symbols. Right. Didn't use those. They have.
What about the swastika?
The ABT patch has a giant swastika in the middle of it. It's a huge shield. It's the whole side. And it has a shield with two light rays behind it. And it's got a big swastika in it. And it says Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, and it's got some lightning bolts in it.
Do you have one on you?
No.
You never got
we
one.
were forbidden. We were forbidden. I had a different, I'll explain. We were not supposed to get them because in Texas, ABT is a security threat group, designated STG. And once you're confirmed as a member, they send you to ADSEG. Right. And they wanted us to stay in population. Right. In general population, to be active. So we were forbidden from getting any kind of marks.
So only the Shotcallers sitting in segregation, giving the orders, have those tattoos, I assume.
Generally, some people just go ahead and get them. Right. But generally, yeah. Okay.
Now, can you explain that? So just like the AB in California, you know, the Shotcallers sit in Pelican Bay. They sit in San Quentin. Most of them haven't been on the main line with the general population for decades.
That's right.
But they wield power. I didn't believe it until I talked to enough people on this podcast, and they're like, no, the power is real. And they're very small. They're very, very selective in who they actually make full-blown members. And they call shots to everybody in every single prison in California. All the other white gangs basically take orders from Pelican Bay. Is the structure similar in Texas with the ABT? Could you explain that? Go into detail about that?
Yeah, sure. So, for instance, like I said, I met a general, an ABT general, which is the highest rank. They have 5 generals. I met his half brother, and this general was already in administrative segregation on Ferguson unit. Whenever I got connected, his brother wrote him. He was like, hey, this is a good guy. Keep an eye on this one. And so we started corresponding, and that's all those guys do. You used to, and they probably still can. If you had a lawsuit or something going, they had to let you buy a typewriter, one of those big old electric typewriters. And if you ever get on a block with like a general of MA, Texas Syndicate, anybody, all you hear is that typewriter going all day. They're just in there typing orders,
sending kites to prisons all over Texas.
They would get carbon paper and put it between the sheets of typing paper to make duplicate copies of orders, and they would be tiny little print, just all the instructions
hidden.
A lot of times, man, they didn't even really hide anything. Okay. Most of the kites and stuff that I got were just open.
Okay.
You know, there's always the wink and the nod prison kind of, you know what I mean? But
now what kind of orders are they giving?
Not openly criminal.
Right.
A lot of the decisions are made at the unit level because they read the mail. The cops read the mail, obviously. Right. And so like the first on Bartlett unit, I got introduced to those guys, and there was really no ABT on that unit. It was mostly new people, but little by little, some members started showing up there and we started conversing. And then I was working in intake on that unit under classification as kind of like a clerk. And so I had the ability to get inmates moved to different bunks and different buildings and stuff like that. And so I, over time, moved all the Peckerwoods onto one block, my block, dorm. And so, man, we had it going on. We had like 10 dudes on one pod, and we had no issues. And 2 of them were talking to or had relations with female staff. And we had stuff going on with visitation. Right. So now I'm still not a member, not even a prospect. Yeah. And we're bringing in drugs, we're bringing in cash, we're bringing in tobacco was really big. Yeah. The female, they weren't officers. One was a teacher, one was a RN, a nurse. We're bringing us stuff. Right. And so we had it going on. Right. The thing is,
what are you using cash in prison for?
Mostly tobacco from the guards.
Right.
You know, the cash is used to buy drug. This is before cell phones.
So the cash gets smuggled in to then give to the guards, so they bring shit in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because the cash is way easier to smuggle in. Right. You know, you can roll up $10 bill, get you a pack of smokes. Yeah. The loose tobacco. Yeah. They'd take those tops or whatever loose tobacco and they'd mash it. The guards would mash it super flat, like paper thin, and they'd layer about 10 packs in the bottom of their boots. Yeah. And just walk in with it. But like my head, the junior lieutenant, which was the head AB guy on that unit, I mean, he was sleeping with the head of medical, whose husband was the head of maintenance on that prison. And she brought all kind of, they all did. There was a lot of them were bringing in a lot of stuff. But I had a pair of boots that I had modified to where you could peel the sole. Yeah. And it had a hollowed out heel that would stick back with the super sticky stuff they used on the windows. And it would hold like a little Bic lighter or like a little thing of meth or whatever. Wow. And I would rent it to other inmates.
Rent the boot.
Yeah.
The smuggling boot.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they would go to go to visitation and bring back stuff. And so we had a lot, you know, there's tattooing going on. We got a lot of stuff going on in this one pod.
Wow.
Well, things would happen, you know, not like a misunderstanding with the Mexican mafia on the handball court, and it leads to a fist fight, which now leads to, we all got to fall out and see what's going to happen about this. So I'm not a member of anything, but some of my buddies are, and these are my friends. You go to chow with them. You're sitting at the table playing dominoes with them. Everybody sees you with those guys. If they got to fall out, if they have to strap it up and fall out to see what's up, you got to go. And the thing is, like, if somebody's going to jump them, if it's going to jump off and they're going to attack them, they're going to attack me too. Because they think I'm with them because we're hanging out all the time. So over time, I was just like, I need to have more say in politics. All right. I'm going to be here. I'm not getting out. I'm going to have to do the whole team. Yeah. So I need to have more say. And that kind of led me to like, let me just go ahead and do this. You know, let me go ahead and join. Yeah. That way I can guide these dudes who are causing problems. And a lot of these white dudes they're just not very sophisticated. They're country. Some of them can't read. Of course. They don't like black people. Yeah. They don't like Mexicans. Yeah. It's just constant problems, you know. So
how hard is it to join? Like, what does that require?
Well, it should have been harder.
Okay.
But because of the expansion of Texas prison at that time, you had thousands of new inmates coming in. And there's another big Texas white prison gang, and that's Aryan Circle. And so without realizing it at the time, I came in during something of like an arms race between AC and ABT.
Okay.
And so some of at that time, the new white guys, some were going AC, some were going ABT. AC was considered to be younger and more rambunctious, just more fighting, more violent, more wild. ABT was more established. It was the OG clique, you know? And I wanted to learn, I didn't want to just do prison gang stuff. I wanted to learn how to be a real gangster.
That's right.
Like, I'm never going to get to be a Gambino.
Yeah.
But I can do this.
Yeah.
And these guys are into stuff.
You wanted to be a shot caller.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to do real crime, like big drug dealing, like actual make some real money out of this, you know, not this little piddly stuff, this kid stuff.
So you thought you could make big money in prison selling drugs?
And after.
Okay.
And after.
So you were trying to make connections from when you got out?
ABT's got a whole thing going in the free world.
Okay.
Big time. So,
explain that.
Well, it's mostly meth dealing.
Right.
That's what I figured out.
Right.
ABT, despite the Aryan prefix, is a criminal organization. All prison gangs are split by race.
Yeah.
The Mexican mafia is not called the Caucasian mafia. It's the Mexican mafia. Yeah. It's not the Mexican and black and, you know what I mean? Yeah. So everybody's split into their own.
So do the shot callers like La M, you know, for instance, this organization they give directives to the street.
Right.
Right. So it actually starts in prison in California with the shot callers who are giving orders to the drug dealers in the free world.
Yep.
Is ABT set up the same way in Texas?
Yeah.
Wow.
The generals are in charge of prison and free world. And then they have majors. If you're a mate, once you go, it goes general, major, captain, lieutenant, sergeant. Now, when I was in it, it went prospect, full member, junior lieutenant, senior lieutenant, captain, then general.
So this is highly organized.
Oh, yeah. Wow. 25-page constitution. I've written it about 500 times.
Oh,
I could damn near remember it right now.
So there's room to move up.
Absolutely. And that's what they were grooming me for.
I see.
Because I had sense. And the thing is, like I've said, I was never really like this gung-ho, violent guy.
Yeah.
And I always had black friends, and I understood black culture, and I understood Mexican culture and gang culture. So I was a peacemaker, to be honest. I really, that's the way I looked at it, and I was successful at it. Right. I could squash beef by talking to people respectfully, and we just had so much going on. But once I decided to join, and I prospected directly under the general through the mail.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's kind of like, there were members, there was a junior lieutenant, a couple other members on the facility to observe me and give me orders and things like that. But officially, my sponsor was a general, which was like, made every other member step back. Like, you couldn't touch me. Right. Because I was favored because of his brother. His brother we were cool. He just liked me. And I stood up for myself, you know, I just didn't have any problems.
So you become a lieutenant.
Well,
it's your first.
I did a whole year as a prospect. Right. And during that time, I had to do stuff like, you know, I was expected to sell cigarettes. Like, I would have a bunch of cigarettes in a sock down my front of my pants, you know, looped over my boxers. And you just be walking around like selling crack, you know, you just be walking around, and they'd have to go talk to this bro. Yeah. You know, can I get cigarettes? And he'd just be like, hey, come here. And they'd be like, give him 2. And then I had to keep the Shanks. I had Shanks all in my mattress.
Wow. What kind of Shanks?
Big old welding rod Shanks. Because the whites always have dudes in the maintenance shop. We always have dudes in the maintenance shop and the wood shop and all that. So, and then a lot of those guards are rednecks and kind of favorable. You know what I mean? They're not going to search you quite so hard. And so, man, I had the Shanks. Every Shank I ever had was like made. Like,
to kill people. That's a kill you
big old
shank.
Welding rod with a big old wooden like screwdriver style handle. Wow. I've had plexiglass, big, you know, long double edged, razor sharp knives.
They look like swords.
Yeah,
you feel like Aladdin with that thing. You know,
man. There was this black officer that was. I think he figured out who I was because he would just randomly started picking on me. I was not an inmate that got in a lot of trouble. Right. I'm never in anybody's face. But he'd come on the dorm and be like, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And he would come and shake me down. And one time he had my mattress ripped open with his whole arm in there. And I had 2 welding rod shanks buried in that mattress, and he didn't find them.
Wow.
I was standing on the wall with about 500 cigarettes down the front of my pants. And so I would kind of secretly undid the sock and let it fall down my leg. And when he looked away, I kicked and it shot across the day room like a comet.
Wow.
And this old Mexican dude caught it and he put it in his newspaper and he went and sat on the toilet. So
wow.
I got away with that. But
are you single celled?
No, this is a dorm.
Okay.
Still.
Okay. So you're still in dorms.
Still in dorms.
Okay.
And so anyway, that's when I joined and I did my year probation.
Yeah. Never got caught.
Prospect.
Never got caught with cigarettes or shanks or.
Nope.
I mean, I know a lot of this is in collusion with the guards, but
right. No, I never
had a whole shot in the
I got in trouble. Man, I barely got in trouble over there. I had a couple fights. Yeah. Nothing too serious. And then I finished my prospect period. And after a year, they made me a full member.
Wow.
And then my junior lieutenant was the guy that ran the unit.
Yeah.
He was the one that was hooking up with the head of medical.
Yeah.
And they busted them. And so they shipped him. And so suddenly I found myself junior lieutenant, which is a temporary rank. It's like they give it to you because somebody has to call the shots.
Yeah.
Who's going to call it?
Right.
And so by then we probably had about 8 or 10 members on the unit. And I actually picked up a prospect of my own.
Yeah.
And see, all this is going really fast. Like I haven't even been to a real prison yet.
Right.
I'm still just in a transfer facility.
God, imagine that.
And it was just this, in retrospect, I realized it was an arms race against Aryan Circle to recruit. Like if you were even half solid white dude, you're getting, recruited.
Oh, right.
And the writing was on the wall. Should have seen what was inevitably going to happen.
Right.